Another extension that you might find useful for Visual Studio is SideWaffle. SideWaffle is another open source project run by the community as well as developers from the ASP.NET team, and the idea behind SideWaffle is this. Visual Studio is notoriously difficult to extend when it comes to adding new project templates and item templates. There's just a lot of bureaucracy and ceremony, but having new item templates and project templates is extremely useful because they quite often give us a good starting point for creating new components and features, and they include all the boilerplate code. So there are two ways to use SideWaffle. One is to be strictly a SideWaffle consumer, and another is to use SideWaffle to create your own item and project templates that are customized for your work. Let's look at the consumer side first. I need to download and install SideWaffle. I can do this from the sidewaffle.com website. I can also do this by going to the extension manager in Visual Studio and looking online in the Visual Studio gallery for SideWaffle. I will download this. That downloads a v6, a file with a VSIX extension. I'll just launch this and allow it to plug into Visual Studio 2013. And it's complete. I'll just restart Visual Studio and be right back. As a consumer of SideWaffle, now that I have it installed, there are all sorts of interesting new item templates and project templates that I can play with. And as SideWaffle itself is updated with new templates, Visual Studio will notify me because it is an extension that's installed here now. Let's say that I want to add some new JavaScript. When I go to Add New Item now, I can see there's a SideWaffle node under my web node. And these are some of the item templates that SideWaffle comes with by default. So all sorts of item templates for different Angular components. It gives me the boilerplate code that I need for an Angular directive, Angular controller, also Durandal, another great framework for building client-heavy applications. There's little nice things like a favorite icon, humans.txt, robots.txt, and here's a jQuery plugin. So I could call this OTC plugin. And what I get is the boilerplate code to write a jQuery plugin. All I need to do is implement my functionality without worrying about writing out $fn.extend and all the normal things that I would need to do to get a jQuery plugin up and running. There's also new project templates. So if I come in and say File New Project and look under SideWaffle, here are project templates that I can use to build a Chrome extension, so something that perhaps plugs into the developer tools of Google Chrome. It has all the metadata files and descriptions that I need all set up and ready to go so that when I do a build, I have everything that I need. I could also start a project with HTML5 boilerplate. That's a popular way to start HTML5 applications these days. It gives you everything that you need inside of the HTML head tag and icons and instructions for Apple iPads to download the right icons. And all of this is very wonderful, but I can also create my own project and item templates using SideWaffle. One of the first steps that you'll need to do in order to work with the SideWaffle source code is make sure you have the Visual Studio SDK installed, because the SideWaffle project is going to require that. If you don't have the SDK, Visual Studio will say it cannot load the SideWaffle project, the one that contains the SideWaffle source code. Once you have the SDK installed, you can go to the SideWaffle repository on GitHub, and then you'll want to download the source. So you can download the source code as a zip file. You can also use GitHub for Windows to clone this repository and put it on your local hard drive. So once you have the source code and once the SDK is installed, you'll be able to open up SideWaffle and start poking around with the template pack. The template pack is the project that when you build this, it will produce the v6 file that you need to double click on to install into Visual Studio. So if I right click that and say, give me a Windows Explorer view, I can go into the debug directory, currently empty. So I need to build the project. And now that we're built, if I come into that debug directory, there's the template pack that I can double click on again. It will install all the templates from this project that I have open inside of Visual Studio, which includes all of the templates that we've seen, but we can customize those and or add new templates. So you'll notice there's a folder item templates and a folder project templates. Those are the two different categories of templates. The folders inside of here represent the nodes where these particular items will appear. You'll remember we used a template that was a jQuery plugin template that appeared under web. And if I look under JavaScript, jQuery, Indeed, there is the plugin. Let's just open that up and see what a plugin consists of. First of all, there's the boilerplate code for the item that you want to add to someone's project. And all of this should look familiar because when we created that plugin, it's all the same code, just a few things were parameterized. Coming back to the SideWaffle project, that's something you can do by adding a parameter $safe item name $. And so if I don't like the way this particular template is working, I can always make some changes in here, build again, reinstall the template pack, and now I will have a customized item. I can also create my own items, my own item templates and project templates. For example, let's say I wanted to create a custom template for ASP.NET MVC. Maybe I want my own custom controller template, something that doesn't go through the scaffolding, but still has some of my tweaks. If that's the case, what I would do is add a new item, and under extensibility, there is a SideWaffle category and a SideWaffle item template. So yes, I'm using an item template to create an item template. It's very much like metaprogramming, but let me call this OTC controller. It's controller templates just for my project. When I click add, SideWaffle will add all the necessary pieces that I need inside of a new folder here. It's called OTC controller. One of the pieces that I need is a VS template definition file. What SideWaffle will do is start you off with 4 different templates. They all end with a hyphen. If I do want this to be available for C# projects, I need to change the name of that to VS template with an E on the end. And yes, I do want to change the file extension. I would do the same thing if I wanted to make this available for VB. And then these 2 web templates, these are for websites. I'm not interested in supporting VB or websites, so I'm just going to delete those other templates. And now my C# template, this is where I would want to come in and do things like add a long description. I want to change the default name, which would be otccontroller.cs. And down here, the project item, this is the item that I want to add to the project. I'm going to call it otccontroller.cs and replace readme.txt because I don't want to add a readme file to the project. So I will rename this file to also be otccontroller.cs. And it's inside of here where I can place my boilerplate code, perhaps with some of those parameters like safe item name. So when I create a controller, I'd probably want the template to go ahead and include the system.web.mvc namespace. And you will have to fight IntelliSense a little bit in these custom templates. I will want the class to be inside of a namespace. How do I get the namespace? Well, there is a parameter for that too. And sometimes you just have to poke around and figure out what some of these other templates are doing in order to get what you need. So there is a parameter root namespace. I'm going to copy that into my template. What will happen when I use this template is that root namespace will be replaced with the right namespace for the folder that I'm in and the project default namespace. It'll all work out. And then inside of here, I would want my code perhaps using safe item name so that the user can customize the name. And maybe the whole purpose of this is so that I have something that derives from base controller. Perhaps I want an authorize attribute by default. And once I have all those little tweaks in place, if I do a build, that should produce a new template pack for me. And the build was successful. So let's swing into the debug directory and run the template pack. Yes, I want it to install into Visual Studio 2013. That's finished. Let me open up a new instance of Visual Studio 2013 to make sure we have all the latest changes. I'll open up a project that we worked on previously, the Signal R project. And now what I should be able to do is to come into Solution Explorer, say Add New Item. And under SideWaffle, I should be able to find, hopefully, yes, the OTC controller. Let me call it Admin Controller. And that spits out the code for me. Of course, I would actually need a base controller class in this project. So using SideWaffle, you can create your own project templates, your own item templates. You can emit text files, C# files, XML files, icons, images, anything that you want from these templates. And it's a really nice way to customize your environment for a specific team, for a specific project, for a specific company.